Renewable energy, reasons for making a global switch. I'm just going to be going over like what renewable energy is, what different types of renewable energies there are, different sources, what kind of like state we are in the world right now of like getting to use renewable energy, and like ways to implement it yourselves. So what is renewable energy? It's energy from a source that is not depleted when used. And some examples of that are solar energy, wind energy, geothermal, hydropower energy, ocean energy, and bioenergy. So basically, renewable energy is just energy that will be replaced as soon as it's used up. Um, like you can't use up all of the sun that's coming in. You know what I mean? It'll still be there the next day, even if you use it. So uh, first up is solar energy. I'm sure this is like the most common one when people think about renewable energy or environmentally friendly energy. There's solar panels. You can get them on your house. There's a couple farms, especially I think in like desert areas where there's not a lot of like um, there's not a lot of urban areas, so like the big pieces of land can be used up just for the solar energy. There's like solar panel parking lots, I think it's like the most commonly used one, I think, especially in California where we're really sunny all the time. We also have wind energy. uh, there's like wind turbines, wind farms. One like really, I guess, rudimentary thing of using wind energy is like a windmill, because it uses the wind energy to like grind up grains and make flour. So we've been using wind for a long time, and it still produces a lot of energy for us. I think LA is mainly um, powered by the wind farm that's outside of it, but I could be wrong about that. Then there is geothermal energy, which is a little bit more technical. It's heat from the earth being funneled up to us through a well to convert to usable energy. So I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but if you can, it basically starts with like a sort of a hot spot in the earth. Usually is it's where like there's a lot of magma kind of pooled up, and it's kind of close to the crust of the earth. So then uh, it's obviously very, very hot. That's kind of like what I think I think that's what Yosemite is. Magma really close to the to it's really close to the crust, so it heats everything up. So then we have the so it goes like from here, it steams up the water that we have like settled in the plant, and then the steam sort of like powers the turbine, and any other steam goes like back in here. Um, and that steam is cooled down. That's why we have like the big cooling towers. And it goes back down to like go back into the cycle. But the turbine that's like being moved by the steam is what causes the electricity. Um, then we have hydropower, which is also a very old. I think it's pretty old. I think we've been using it for a long time. I think I'm pretty sure this is a picture of the Hoover Dam. It's very, very big, very, very famous. And it's energy from rivers and reservoirs using the current's force and speed to make electricity. So dams and I forgot the name of it, but it's like those wheels that you used to be able to see at rivers. Um, and then there's ocean energy. It's a new field of research, actually. There's not like any plants yet. It's still kind of like in the testing process. It has a lot of potential because like tidal waves and stuff like that. There's so much energy from that if we could like tap into it, we could like produce more energy just from that than humanity is even using right now, like the entire world. um, that it's using and like it's going to need in any time soon. Um, the idea is that we would use the force of the tidal waves to hit cliffs, um, and um, and then that force is going to be creating the electricity. But right now it's still in the experimental stages, and it's still like kind of a potential, if that makes sense. Then we have bioenergy. This is also a very old method of making energy. It does produce like a little bit of, I guess, like greenhouse gases because it is burning like charcoal, wood, manure, um, for energy, and it's usually used by like like rural places that don't have access to electricity to warm up their houses and stuff like that. It's usually for warmth, or it's just like just in general. But it is still way cleaner than or not cleaner, but when it's easier to get access to again, and it doesn't pollute like nearly as much as fossil fuels, which is what I'll be going over next. So what energy sources do we use today? So while renewable energy, like all of the things I went over, while some of them are used like today, the main production of energy that like humanity uses as a whole comes from fossil fuels. Um, we also like I know in the U.S. we also have a couple like nuclear energy plants. It's a little bit of a controversial topic, um, because like people think it's like really dangerous. It is, but it's still it's like it's not sorry it's not a very big use. So the main thing that we use is fossil fuels and renewable energy. Um, uh, so what are oh, yeah, what are fossil fuels exactly? Um, National Geographic says that fossil fuels are made from decomposing plants and animals. These fuels are found in Earth's crust and contain carbon and hydrogen, which can be burned for energy. What isn't included in that is that it takes millions of years for those plants and animals to decompose and turn into fossil fuels, because, like the name implies, they are from fossils. Um, it's So that's the idea of like why renewable energy is called renewable. It's very easily renewed. Fossil fuels are not. It takes millions of years to remake, and most likely we won't be around for that. um, so uh, Non-renewable energy, fossil fuels. Um, Once it's burned up, there's no like easy access for it. And the bad part about fossil fuels specifically is that they burn up really fast and really easily. So it's a short-term means of energy. And some examples of fossil fuels are oil, petroleum, coal, natural gases, things like that. So why should we use more renewable energy? Um, there's two main reasons. One, long-term sustainability. Fossil fuels will run out eventually, and there's no point in keeping our infrastructure focused on something that is going to finish up really fast. Um, and then pollution reduction. We are in a world where we are starting to, like you guys just mentioned it, how we're having really weird weather, and most likely it's caused by climate change or different different things that are like our earth is changing, and we can tell it's because of that pollution. So long-term sustainability, uh like I already said, fossil fuels are going to run out, and it's going to leave energy security up in the air if we still have any like if we're still dependent on fossil fuels when we run out. It's going to cause havoc. Like there's not going to be um a backup plan, and anything that depends on energy is going to become really, really expensive to use. And it's not going to be, it's only going to be accessible for those that have money. And I mean, that's not a lot of people. It's like the 1%, the top 1%, you know what I mean? Uh, then again, human demand for energy is going to increase. So that just means that the fossil fuels that we do have are going to run out faster. And then uh, the costs over time of harnessing renewable energy are significantly lower than burning fossil fuels. That just means that using renewable energy is so much cheaper in the long run than using fossil fuels. Like those mines for coal are expensive to create, and the manpower it takes to keep mining is very expensive. Um, the machinery that it takes to pump oil out of the ground is very expensive to make and manage. And then in comparison to renewable energy, like a solar power plant, you just need a couple. You just need solar panels that will last you. I think 10 years is the average lifespan of a solar panel. Um, you just use it once, and then it doesn't take as much manpower to use and manage. It's just much less expensive once we already have the machinery, and there's not as much effort in like burning it, and like it's not just getting it. Fossil fuels also require to like burn it and then convert it to electricity, where the process is much more shortened when it comes to renewable energy. And again, like going back to that idea that fossil fuels are going to run out. Um, when I made this, I think last Wednesday, we had 47 years left of oil barrel reserves. That means that there are 1.65 trillion barrels of proven oil reserves in the world as of, oh, that was in 2016. So I don't know what that number is now. The world has proven reserves equivalent to 46.6 times its annual consumption levels. That just means that right now, the way that we're consuming, those reserves will only last us 47 years, basically, a little less than. And unless we all of a sudden find a very big increase of resources of oil, or we use significantly less, those oil barrel reserves are not going to last us more than the next 50 years. And then another reason why we should make the switch to renewable energy is that things aren't being burned and producing greenhouse gases. That affects local air pollution significantly. So things like smog in cities, things like uh, I mean, I'm sure that if you're from a big city, the really pretty sunsets are usually caused by a lot of smog. Um, so it's that very direct. It's that very direct uh, reflection of effort. And then on top of that, I think uh, air pollution specifically also causes acid rains. I don't think it affects the U.S. as much, but that does mean that areas where that are dependent on uh, catching rain for water, it means that they no longer have access to that, because the water that's coming down isn't water anymore, it's acid, and it's not usable. And then the next point is that humanity gets to stick around without roughing it through climate catastrophes if we make the switch and stop producing pollution. I think it was, I don't know if it was this year or last year, it was around, it was that there was like ice caps that hadn't melted in, I think, millions of years. And they melted either this year or last year for the first time in a really long time, and it was because we've been experiencing really high increases of temperature, and it was that increase of water in the earth in general that is causing like different places on the coast. I think parts of Miami are completely underwater. Not even counting the levels of climate catastrophes that hurricanes and things like that cause. It's a lot of different things that snowball into bigger and bigger catastrophes for humanity. And if we were to stop producing pollution, like just as a rough stop, we'd get to save ourselves from feeling even worse effects. So sustainability and pollution affect every aspect of our lives. um, the ozone layer and the climate change are very closely linked. Right now, greenhouse gases are, I think, reducing our ozone layer, and that just means that I think more heat coming from the sun is getting trapped in the earth. And less is like bouncing back out into space. So that just means that we're feeling different. We're feeling on average higher temperatures all around the world. So if and us, like I think I mentioned this earlier on in the presentation, but if infrastructure isn't in place when we run out to make the switch to all renewable energy, any fossil fuels left will be incredibly expensive. So gas prices will shoot up more than they already have, because I'm pretty sure this is significantly lower than gas prices are here in California. Um, and things like electricity will be really expensive. Things like uh, I'm not like not natural gas stoves will be not like will be I guess a luxury, because they're going to be much too expensive to use regularly. And it's things like that that will affect overall our quality of life in the long run if we don't make that switch to renewable energy. So then why, if there's like so many reasons to switch to renewable energy, why haven't we already, you know? So the easy answer is it costs a lot of money. And we have sorry. uh okay. um we have a very big problem in our country where we don't like making very big very big movements of money all at once, especially when so it's going to be a very taxing shift up front. So even if over time that investment returns multiplied, basically what I was trying to say is that renewable energy is going to require like a lot of upfront investment. It's going to need money in the a lot of money in the beginning to be put in, but then afterwards that maintenance isn't going to be as expensive. That it's going to the money is going to come back in ways that like electricity is going to be a lot cheaper. Different different access to technology is going to be a lot cheaper because uh, we have more sources of energy and more and it's more readily usable. And then another reason that we haven't made the switch is that a lot of very rich fossil fuel corporations, like ExxonMobil, I think they're called, they have a lot of money and they're very able to buy out some politicians to get their votes to not pass any legislation that's going to harm them, and it's going to force fossil fuels to not be used anymore. Because if they don't, if because their whole corporation is based on using fossil fuels, selling oil, selling gas, selling petroleum, selling natural gases, because that's their livelihood. Obviously, they don't want to lose that. They don't want to make the switch to renewable energy. So they just make sure that the world doesn't make that shift. They make sure that um, because individuals can do a lot, but if if the US were to make that shift entirely, it would be so much more beneficial, but obviously they don't want that to happen. So we can't, it's the infrastructure that would ultimately be more helpful to us making that switch to renewable energy. There we go. So what can you do as an individual? What can we do? You can invest in personal use of solar panels on your homes. I know that if you're living in an apartment or something like that, it's a little harder. You can usually, as a community, get together and ask for solar panels. Um, I know that you can also look up local community efforts. There's a lot other. I know there's a lot of communities that are trying to get together and as a big neighborhood switch to renewable energy, switch to getting solar panels, and because it's a community effort, it's usually less money that you have to pay. You can or you can just donate to different communities that are trying to get that done but can't afford it. You can also avoid legislation that supports fossil fuel use. I think think like a pipeline for oil through native land, fracking reimplementation, tax cuts on corporations that use oil or gas or sell oil or gas. Um, you can also support legislation that pushes towards green alternatives. So, like building wind farms, installing solar panels, making it cheaper for that to be done, making like grants to be done. And then finally, you can just spread the word. Learning about this is already a step into learning more about renewable energy and using renewable energy. So then if you share what you know, it's a lot easier to get it done. And I think these are my resources that I used, and that's it. Thank you.